Today, Shashank is going to be our co-host, and as usual, he'll keep a lookout for people coming in late. He'll let them in and keep a lookout for your questions and your observations, and enable us to have a discussion. All right, let me start with the pranam, the Shanti mantra. Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunuyama Deva Bhadram Pashyemakshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangai Sushtavagam Sastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarkshyo Arishtanemi Swasti no Brihaspati'r dadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, what's the story so far? We have been studying the 4th chapter of the Mandukya Karika, which is called the Alata Shanti Prakaranam. In this, Gaudapada, having established the non-duality of the turium, the falsity of the universe in the earlier chapters, now he takes up all these other points of view, other philosophies who do not at all agree with non-duality, and he refutes them. The basic approach is an attack on causality, that cause and effect is not real. The reality is Brahman or turium, which is beyond cause and effect. How is that relevant? Look at how he uses it. First, he takes up this question about, is there a real world or not? Does the world exist? So has the world been produced? Is there really creation? The question is, has the world been created? And what he does is, he takes up the two major theories of creation in Indian philosophy. Those who say the world has been really produced, really created. And if you remember, Satkaryavada and Asatkaryavada, the origination of a new effect or the origination of a pre-existing effect. These are the two theories. And he attacks those theories. There is a lot going on behind the scenes. So when he's attacking Satkaryavada and Asatkaryavada, actually Gaudapada is taking on Nyaya, Vaisheshika and the Sankhya and Yoga philosophies. The Nyaya and Vaisheshika hold on to the Asatkaryavada, and the Sankhya and Yoga philosophies hold on to the Satkaryavada. So by refuting those theories of causality, he is refuting these philosophies, and the whole purpose is to show that a real world has not been produced. That's what we saw. Then the story, when last time we saw how he takes on another big issue in Indian philosophy, the law of karma. What's the story there? The story is that we have all heard this, and I have told you so many times, and we have heard this, we have read about this. This is a basic idea in Indian thought, that there is the law of karma. If you consciously do what is right, dharma, the result will be punya, which is merit, and the result of this merit will be sukha, happiness. Good things, pleasant things, desirable things happen to you in the world. And if one consciously, deliberately does bad things, adharma, the result will be pāpa, demerit, and the result of the demerit will be dukkha, suffering, unpleasant things will happen. And this itself is the ground for talking about, for holding that there is reincarnation. That means there are many births. We have existed earlier, we have this body and we are existing in this life. When this body dies, we'll get another body. So karma produces these bodies, and with these bodies we do more karma, good and bad. And by the law of karma, there is rebirth. And this cycle of birth and rebirth continues. This is called samsara. And also this is bondage. And this is what we are trying to overcome in spiritual life. By spiritual practices, one day we will be able to come out of this cycle of karma and rebirth, maybe by the grace of God in bhakti, or whichever way, we will be able to come out of it. So this is the story we have been told, and Gaudapada is having none of it. He considers the whole thing to be fictional, and so he attacks this theory. See, even when he's attacking the law of karma, notice it's basically an attack on cause and effect, on causality, because the law of karma is nothing but causality. By our actions, cause, we generate karma, and that gives rise to certain effects in our life. Certain things happen in our life. So, effect, cause and effect. Our bodies are effects because they have been produced by the past karma, which is the cause. And the body becomes a cause for future karma, which will produce future bodies. So, cause and effect. And Gaudapada's attack is constant on cause and effect. What does he say? He says, if you remember last time we discussed, very quickly I'll run through it. What is the basic, his objection to the law of karma? He says, how is this body produced? The answer is by past karma, but how did that karma come to be? So, what is first? Is karma first? If you say karma is the cause of everything, but you just said we need a body to do karma. So, that means before that karma there must have been a body. So, if the opponent says, okay, body is first, but then how did that body come to be? Before that body there must be karma. The opponent says, no, body does karma and karma produces the body. So, that cannot be, because cause and effect have to be in sequence. If the body is doing karma, then the body is the cause and the karma is the effect. That karma cannot produce this body. Let me repeat. Body produces karma, body does karma, sharira karma. Then you cannot say karma produces the body, because this karma has come afterwards. Effect, the cause must be before the effect. So, you must say there is a karma before that body. So, they cannot be simultaneous, that is what I mean. They cannot be mutually producing each other, that will not work. When you say seed produces tree and the tree produces seed, you do not mean the same seed. One seed produced a tree, a plant, and then that plant produces other seeds which will produce other plants. They do not produce each other. Then you might say nobody thinks like this. Yeah, chicken and egg problem, Rick is saying the same thing. Nobody thinks like this. That is true, but when you are philosophizing, you must eliminate every alternative step by step. The real law of karma, the way it is explained in different Indian philosophies, that is going to come. That is going to come next, but we are building up to it. Another alternative could be, suppose the opponent says, look, God starts you off with karma and body. Some karma, initial karma, like you are starting a business and your dad or your rich uncle says, here is the shop and here is some money, now you are on your own. So, like here is a body, here is some karma, now you are on your own. Why can't you say that God started it all? But then, did God start all of equally? All of them, we are all sentient beings have the same karma and the same body. That sounds very weird. Not only does it sound weird, it does not explain anything, because then how did differences arise? If everybody was the same, then how would people react differently and some do good things, some do bad things? It is not possible. There must have been difference. If you say God created people different, that's many theistic religions say that. So, God created people different. Then God is responsible, God is partial. Ultimately, then all our sufferings which are due to bad karma can be traced back to God. And some people seem to have it so good, so their good karma and all ultimately through a beginningless, through a link, a chain of cause and effect, it can be traced back to God. God becomes partial then. That doesn't work. That's against the very nature of God. God is supposed to be all loving and beneficent and just. Then the opponent says, no, you're just playing with words. What I meant was there's a chain of karma. So, as Rick said, chicken and egg problem. Which came first? The answer is, it's a chain. The egg produces the chicken and chicken produces the egg, and that produces another chicken. The seed produces the plant produces seeds, and those seeds produce other plants. Karma produces a body produces karma produces a body, and so it's a chain. That's what I mean. Immediately Gaudapada asks, so what was at the beginning of the chain? Was it an egg or a chicken? Was it a seed or a plant? Was it a body or karma? What was there at the beginning? So the opponent finally comes to the finished form, the final form of the law of karma, the way it is taught in Indian philosophy, whether Hinduism or whatever. All schools say this. It's a chain, but a beginningless chain. So that takes care of Gaudapada's objections. You can't ask for a beginning. It's a beginningless chain. Further back, the more you go back, wherever you stop, you will either find a body or you'll find karma. You'll either find a chicken or an egg. And if you ask what was before that, if it's a chicken, then an egg was before that. If it's a plant, a seed was before that. If it's a body, then there was karma before it. And that karma had another body before it. And so on. Beginningless. You might say that's illogical, but anyway, that's how it is. That's where it stops. Gaudapada says that will not do. That will not do. If you say beginningless, then it could be endless. Generally, series which is beginningless series also is endless series. So, if it is endless, then there will be no moksha. Karma, body, karma, birth and rebirth cycle will continue. This is called anirmoksha prasanga, the contingency of no moksha. Then what are we doing here at all? Why these Vedanta marathons? Huh? We have a Vedanta class now and then San Diego after this. If there is no moksha, if there is an endless chain of karma and the opponent says, wait, there is an end to it. There is an end to it. So does that satisfy you? No beginning and there is an end. Now that might, forgetting the logical or the irrationality which might be involved, talking about things which have beginningless but with an end, Gaudapada says, all right, let's accept that. Let's say the law of karma says that there is no beginning to the chain of karma and bodies and there is an end to it by God's grace, by spiritual practice or whatever. That also won't do. So Gaudapada is merciless. He says that also will not do. Why? Now what is the problem? The problem is this. You are saying that karma will come to an end by spiritual practice, by grace of God or whatever. So birth and rebirth will come to an end. Moksha will begin. But if moksha begins, then moksha has a beginning. That which has a beginning will have an end. Moksha can end also. That moksha which was not there has now originated. Who is to say that the moksha will not disappear again? Moksha may very well come to an end also. So the law of karma, Gaudapada dismisses. It's an appearance. It's part of Maya. It's not real. What is real is Brahman or Turiyam, which is beyond the law of karma. Swami Vivekananda put it very well, so simply in his Song of the Sannyasin. He says, good, good, bad, bad, and none escape the law, but whosoever wears a form wears the chain. So this is the law of karma. Then he says, but far beyond name and form is Atman ever free. Know thou art that, sannyasi bold, say Om Tat Sat Om. So basically that's the idea in Vedanta. You say that, but Swami Vivekananda did not say that the law of karma is false. Yes, but look what he says. Far beyond name and form is Atman ever free. Atman is ever beyond the law of karma. How can it be beyond the law of karma? Unless the law of karma is an appearance. It's Maya. It's just name and form. It's, as he said, beyond name and form is Atman ever free. The reality is the free Atman. You are ever free right now. Ever means, I know if somebody objects, I know I am ever free. I know Swami Vivekananda said I am ever free. That's all right. But now how to become free? What will you say to such a person? If you're seeing at one side, on one hand you are accepting I am ever free. Now how, being ever free, how do I become free now of the law of karma? You are ever free. So that's what Gaudapada is saying. When Swami Vivekananda says Atman ever free, you are the Atman which is ever free, it implies what Gaudapada is saying here, that the law of karma cannot be real then in that case. Okay. Then let us go on. We are done up to verse number 20, the 4th chapter. 21. So he just sums up. He just sums up what has gone on, his dismissal of the law of karma. Let's do 21. Pūrvāparāparijñānam ajāteḥ paridīpakam jāyamānāddhi vai dharmāt kathaṃ pūrvaṃ na gṛhyate. It is the English translation. I'll read out from Swami Gambhiranji's translation. The ignorance of the precedence and succession is appointed to the beginninglessness itself. For if it be a fact that a thing takes birth, why is not its cause apprehended? What does it mean? It's basically a sort of summing up of what he has been arguing against the law of karma. This very inability, ajñānam, aparijñānam, this inability to understand, to conceptualize, to rationally explain the law of karma, pūrvāparāparijñānam, beginning and end, the earlier and the later, the predecessor and successor, you are unable to explain it rationally, cause and effect. What does it point to? Ajāteḥ paridīpakam. Very beautiful word, paridīpakam. It lights up my philosophy of ajāta, beginninglessness, no origination. Causality is not true. Because you cannot logically explain causality. What does it mean? It means there is no cause and effect. There is only one reality, which is Turiam, the Atman or Brahman. Otherwise, he says, jāyamānāddhi vai dharmāt kathaṃ pūrvaṃ na gṛhyate. If really something is created, universe is created, we have come into, we are being born again and again. If that is true, then why can't you give the cause? Why can't you describe what is the cause effect link? Your law of karma, it is failing. So this is a big claim by Gaudapada. As I have said, the law of karma and birth and rebirth are something that is axiomatic in Indian philosophy. All schools of Hinduism, all schools of Buddhism, all schools of Jainism and Sikhism, all Indian philosophies, they accept, there is so much difference between themselves. The Buddhists do not accept God. The Buddhists do not accept Atma, a permanent soul. And yet they accept law of karma and this reincarnation, birth and punarjanma. One sadhu said, ye bhari gambhir tattva hai Mahatma ji. This is a very profound teaching or profound principle. What is the profound principle? Law of karma and reincarnation, punarjanma. Gaudapada is rejecting it. Swami Vivekananda, in his lecture, the basis of Hinduism, what is the common? Hinduism is so diverse. What are the common features of Hinduism? Among that, one thing he said, this reincarnation, law of karma and reincarnation, that's a common feature of Hinduism. So look at the radical nature of Gaudapada. He rejects it. Not that it is not there at the level of Vyavaharika reality, at the level of Maya, yes, but ultimately not real. Ultimately only Brahman is real. Pūrvāparāparijñānam, succession, before and after. Here he points to time. Causality, karma, birth, rebirth, all of that, notice it depends on time. Cause and effect. There must be time, because cause is first and effect is next. Then only you can speak about cause and effect. So time is there. Birth and rebirth, it's a time phenomenon, in temporal phenomenon. And what Gaudapada is pointing towards is that even time is an appearance in consciousness. Time is also not real. Causality, time and space, these three are Maya, they are not real. Maya is an appearance. So karma is causality, which is connected to time and also space. So time, space, causality are appearances, not ultimately real. Ultimately only the Turiam is real. That's what he is trying to say. And he says ajāteḥ paridīpakam. So this shows the reality of what I was trying to say, ajātavāda. Remember, his signature philosophy of Gaudapada, if is one thing that Gaudapada is known for, ajātavāda, the philosophy of non-origination. Then I know that people are asking questions, but we will wait a little. Let me just finish this topic and then I'll go to the questions. So, 22nd, before he moves on to the next topic, 22nd and 23rd are he continues his attack on causality, that there is no really there is no such thing as cause and effect. Let's do 22nd. Svato va parato vā'pi na kiṃcidvastu jāyate sadasatsadasadvā'pi na kiṃcidvastu jāyate. The translation of this one should be interesting. 22nd. A thing whatsoever it may be is born neither of itself, nor of something else, nor of both together. Nothing whatsoever is born that already exists, does not exist, or both exists and does not exist. I hope some of you are smiling when you yeah, but it's actually pretty simple. Gaudapada says 6 things here. In one verse he says, what is causality? How is a thing born? He says, take a simple thing as a pot. We all say a pot is created. Forget the universe or birth and death, samsara, just a pot. Is it created from itself? Is pot created from pot? Svata? No. Svata means from itself. So is a pot created from something that is absolutely not a pot, like a cloth? I mean, in Sanskrit, why the cloth is used, a ghata means pot, and pata means cloth. So ghato ghatat jāyate patatva. So it's sort of alliterative. That's why they say. So is a pot born of a cloth? Of course not. Mixture of itself and something else? Swatah paratahva. So ghata and ghatapatat jāyate. From the ghata and pata. Is it born? Of course not. The very idea of a pot being born from a pot, that is meaningless. If already there is a pot, then what is to be created? And a pot is born from something absolutely not a pot. That's also impossible. A mango tree cannot come out of an apple seed. So something that does not have the potentiality of becoming that can never produce it. And a mixture of pot and something else, that's not possible. It's contradictory. It must be either a pot or something else. But it cannot be pot and cloth together. So in no way, neither from itself is something born, nor from something else is something born, nor from a mixture of itself and something else is something born. These are the first 3. What is born, if you ask? From what is born? Neither from itself, nor from anything else, nor from a mixture of itself and something else. And then what is the entity which originates? Sat, is it an existing thing which comes into existence? Is it asat? Is it a non-existent thing which comes into existence? Or is it a mixture of existence and non-existence which comes into existence? Sadasat. So sat jāyate, is an existing thing born. Asat jāyate, non-existing thing is born. Or sadasat, a mixture of existence and non-existence comes into existence. None of those things are also possible. Which is what we have discussed earlier. If somebody says, hey, wait a minute, you're just playing with words. We all know a pot is born of clay. A pot is created from clay. That's simple. But we have in Advaita, we have already discussed this example. If you look at a pot, and if the moment you say it is created from clay, Gaudapada will have none of that, because the moment you talk about clay and you examine the pot, you find it's nothing but clay. Where is the pot now? Yes, your question was, from where, how did a pot originate? And if you say, from clay, a pot originated, the moment you examine the pot, it's clay only. There is no pot left now. Do you understand why I am saying when you examine the pot, it's clay only? Because what you touch is clay, what you are seeing is clay, what you weigh is the clay itself. What is the pot then? The pot is a name, a word, pot. It's a particular shape, form, and a particular use. You can store water in it or milk in it or something like that. The pot is not a second entity, substance apart from the clay. It is name, form and use, nama, rupa, vyavahara. Somebody may persist. Well, at least it's name, form and use, nama, rupa, vyavahara, at least that much is there, so that's the pot. But no, name, form and use, the form of the pot, can it exist without the clay? Not at all. Take the clay away, what will happen to the form of the pot? It will disappear. The use of the pot, that you can use it to store water. If you take the clay away, can you use it to store water or milk or anything? Nothing. It will just disappear. Once the pot disappears, when you take away the clay, then what does the name pot refer to? It becomes an empty word, does not refer to anything, there is nothing it will refer to. This is why the clay is there, but there is already a name clay which refers to the clay. Now this new name pot, what does it refer to? So name, form and use are nothing when you subtract the basic material which is clay. So there is really no such entity called pot which has been born. To say this, Gaudapada says, it's not born from itself, it's not born from something else, not born from a mixture of itself and something else, it's not an existing thing which comes into existence, it's not a non-existent thing that comes into existence, it's not a mixture of existing and non-existing that comes into existence. In no way a product is produced. Then the same thing he says in another way. This is by the way of concluding his attack on this, on causality. The attack on causality will continue, but this section, attack on karma. Heturna jāyate'nādeḥ, phalaṃ cāpi svabhāvataḥ, ādirna vidyate yasya, tasya hyādirna vidyate. This is 23. I just read 23. I will read out the English translation. I know people have asked, are raising hands, but I will just finish this section, 23. 23. A cause is not born of a beginningless effect, nor does an effect naturally come out of a beginningless cause. Cause and effect are thus birthless, for a thing that has no cause has certainly no birth. Okay, what has been said here? Nothing new. It is exactly what has been said earlier. If you say the effect has come, from what cause? Yeah. We've already discussed this earlier. Is it a cause which is beginningless, but there is no such thing as a beginningless cause? If you say the cause itself has a beginning, then what is at the beginning of the chain of cause and effect? Same things which we have discussed earlier. So no effect is born of a beginningless cause, and nor is a beginningless effect is there which produces future cause and effect. That's also not possible. Nāpi svabhāvataḥ. Here is one other thing. See, every alternative they considered. One other thing is that, why talk like this? Why not just say cause and effect? They just came into being. Body and karma, they just came into being. Random, accidentally. There is no explanation for it. We are not talking about God, we are not talking about Prakriti or nature or Brahman, Maya, nothing. Just body and karma popped into existence. Random, arbitrary. Why not? Just if you say that, what's the problem? The problem is, then the whole project of moksha becomes meaningless. If body and karma can suddenly come into existence without any reason whatsoever, then suppose there is moksha, you are free. Suddenly body and karma will come into existence and you are trapped in samsara again. Moksha is there, you are free, you are turiya. But if body and karma can randomly come into existence, they have come into existence, now you are in a body and you have got past karma and the whole cycle of samsara will start for you then. Then what is the meaning of moksha in that case? If randomly body and karma can come into existence, really. So he dismisses that. Then the second line is interesting. Ādirna vidyate yasya tasya hyādirna vidyate. He will literally translate that which has no beginning, that has no beginning. Ādirna vidyate yasya, that entity which has no beginning, tasya hyādirna vidyate, that entity has no beginning. What does that mean? What he means is the beginning, adi, has two meanings. The first one is, so if an entity has no origination, then the second adi means cause. That means it has no cause either. That which is unborn has no cause, it's beyond cause. So there is no effect, no cause, and the turiyam, the atman, which is unborn, has no cause, no preceding cause, which is not produced by anything. So that's the section attacking the law of karma. Remember, at the transactional level, which Gaudapada is not interested in, there you can accept the law of karma and merrily proceed. See, this is why Mandukya is a little dangerous, why it is always the last thing to be taught, or it is sometimes criticized, or I remember one monk told me many years ago, when that monk was a brahmachari, a novice in the... Okay, let me back up a little bit. I was in the training center, and I was teaching at that time. So a senior monk came visiting, and he asked me, so what are you teaching the brahmacharis? What are they being taught now? I said, they are now studying the Mandukya. I said, oh, do you know Kalida Maharaj, Swami Adinathanand was a disciple of the Holy Mother many years ago, many years ago, when this senior monk was a novice, a brahmachari, that Swami came visiting, and he asked them, what are you studying in the training center now? And this brahmachari, this monk at that time, he said, oh, Swami, we are studying the Mandukya Karika. And Swami Adinathananda said, no, Mandukya Karika, don't teach it to the boys, they'll become atheists. Nastik ho jabe, they'll become atheists. One has to take this very carefully. The question is then, why does Vedanta talk about the law of karma if it's not real? See, that's an initial position, a provisional position, to bring us out of this animalistic, instinctive life. We are shown that everything has cause and effect. Is it fiction? No, ultimately fiction. But right now, in our state of maya, in our state of delusion, it's very true. As Swami Vivekananda said, none escape the law. So we must learn the law and act according to the law. Understand that evil action has bad consequences. Absolutely it does. Don't mistake Gaudapada's dismissal of the law of karma as, what do they call it? A carte blanche or something that gives you the permission to do whatever you like. No. If you do, Sri Ramakrishna puts it this way. In Bengali he said, Lanka khele jhal lagbe na. If you eat a hot chili, you're going to get burnt. It's going to sting. Similarly, the law of karma kicks into effect. The moment you do anything in identification with body and mind, which we are, let's admit it, as long as we are not enlightened, we are trapped in this body-mind complex. When you do something, immediately the law of karma kicks into effect, and there will be some results, some consequences. Every action has consequences, and every consequences there is a cause behind it. So one must be very careful by following the law of karma, careful about what action we do, what our speech, what we say, false speech, harsh speech, unkind talk, avoid those, that's bad karma. And what kind of thought we nurture in our mind. See, here's something subtle. We have no control over what thoughts pop into our mind from the subconscious, or what the external world throws into our mind, and there's a reaction in the mind. At that moment we have no control, but the next moment, whether we shall entertain that negative thought of depression or anger or restlessness, or whether we shall fight against it and control it and transform it, that freedom we have got. So, what thoughts we nourish, notice I did not say what thoughts come into our mind, we are responsible for that. No, what thoughts we nourish, what speech we indulge in, and what actions we do. This is karma, and it has results. As we follow this carefully and we rectify and monitor our lives, we rise to a moral and ethical life. And that is the basis for Vedanta. When we are prepared, then this higher teaching comes into thing, that it sets you free from causality. So from an instinctive animalistic life to an understanding of causality, lifting ourselves to a moral and ethical life, ready for the higher spirituality, to freedom from causality. As Swamiji says, far beyond name and form is Atman ever free. Thou art that. One section is over. Let me quickly see if I can take care of respond to some questions, because another new section is going to begin. A very interesting section is going to begin now. All right. Sashank, are there questions? Who is raised a hand?
Yes, Shekhar. Yeah, Namaste Swamiji. So, according to Advaita Vedanta, ignorance is also beginningless. Would Gaudapada refute that as well?
Yes, because He does not say that ignorance has a beginning or ignorance is beginningless, because ignorance in itself is not a reality. Notice, Gaudapada's position, in one sense, it may be mysterious, but actually it's very easy to understand. Just take the stand of ultimate reality. I am Turiya, or I am the Atman, pure consciousness, pure being, pure bliss. That is what is ultimate truth. I am that. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Take your stand from there and then look at it. From that perspective, is there ignorance at all? No. So the question of a beginningless ignorance, and how can there be a beginningless ignorance, which we talk about in Vedanta, definitely we do. Gaudapada will say, he will dismiss it, because from the perspective of Thuriam, there is no ignorance at all. Why do we at all talk about this ignorance? Because we feel it. And from our perspective, until we realize that I am Brahman, or I am that Thuriam, beyond cause and effect, the witness of the three states, the ground of the three states of waking, dreaming and deep sleep. Until we realize that, realize means as a matter of living truth, undisputable. Until that point, we have to admit that we are under ignorance, because we don't know it, we don't feel it, realize it. And how did that ignorance come? If you ask that question, the answer will be it's beginningless. And that's not an illogical position. I remember the philosopher Professor J.N. Mohanty in a class in the Institute of Culture in Gol Park in Kolkata, a class on Vedanta, when he talked about the beginningless ignorance, he said that's not difficult to understand. It's a very common sense thing. He asked, so do you know German? And we said no. Since when do you not know German? So you're ignorant of German, right? Yes. Since when are you ignorant of German? Somebody said, since my birth. Oh, so you knew German before your birth? No, I didn't know that. Any kind of ignorance is actually beginningless. Think about it. Any ignorance is beginningless, but it has an end. The moment you start learning German, whatever you are ignorant about, when you start cultivating that knowledge, ignorance goes away. Ignorance comes to an end. I was ignorant about German, then I took a few classes on German, now I am not ignorant about German. Ignorance as beginningless ignorance comes to an end. So ignorance is not an entity like a positive entity like other things. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Yeah. Who else is there? Two others, I think.
Maharaj.
Yes, Nitin.
Maharaj, this was a good segue into my question. I had a very related question, that ignorance comes to an end, the beginningless ignorance comes to an end at the relative level. I'm not talking about the absolute, of course. At the relative level, it comes to an end means the knowledge has a beginning.
Yeah.
So if a knowledge has a beginning, can that knowledge not end at the relative level?
It will come to an end. Every knowledge comes to an end. So this might be shocking, but this is actually basic. If you remember our Vedanta Sara, the Brahmakara Vritti which arises, the flash of knowledge, I am Brahman. What does it do? It serves to remove the ignorance that I am not Brahman. And then Brahman, which is ever shining, is realized. Now that realization is not a function of the mind. So it is not something that has a beginning or an end. That flash of knowledge which removes ignorance, it's also an event in our mental life. The ignorance which was there in the mind is now removed by knowledge in the mind. And that knowledge also goes away. But remember, when I say the knowledge goes away, it does not mean that we are again ignorant. The knowledge was an episode, a flash, which reveals to us that we are ever Brahman. We never were this individual sentient being called a jiva. Once that is revealed, you are Brahman.
So we can call it revelation, if not knowledge, but there is something that begins.
Yes.
It stays even after that vritti is gone. There is something that had begun with that vritti and it stays even after that vritti.
No.
It has a beginning.
That not end? The ignorance has an end. The ignorance has an end, and Brahman is beginningless, endless, and that's what you are. Yeah.
Right.
So you'll say, doesn't the realization of Brahman have a beginning and that will continue? No, not necessarily. You realize that you are Brahman, and that realization of Brahman is what continues, is not an event in the mind. it's that you are Brahman, it's evident, it's ever shining. Practically what happens to an enlightened person is that this realization that I am Brahman, it's evident and it's always available. It's not something that a person has to keep thinking, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. No. That ignorance which made that person think that I am a person, I am this body mind, and I've heard about something called Brahman. I've even understood something about it. But that flash, when it comes, I am that is the reality. Even that I also becomes secondary. It's a function of the mind. That reality becomes uppermost, and that's always available. That mind which realized it, now is a Jivan Mukta's mind, that mind does not keep dwelling on it. But if it wants, it can refer back to it. It's always available.
Got it. Okay,
yeah.
Very nice. Thank you.
Can you hear me clearly? Because I got a message saying that your connection is unstable. Can you hear me clearly? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Punanji?
Yeah, Swamiji, according to Gaudapada, nothing is born and hence we cannot intellectually find an appropriate cause for it.
Yes.
But in Gita, Bhagavan says, Natu evam jatu nasam natu am nime janati. So the effect comes and goes, but the cause remains. So is Gaudapada resonating the same thing, or is he disagreeing with the scripture?
Right. The very nature of the cause is to remain and the effect is to come and go. Notice, what is cause and effect in a Vedantic sense, even Sankhya sense? From the same water, waves arise and waves disappear. So the waves have an origination, time when they stay and time when they disappear. But the water is always there. So water as the cause of the waves is always available, and the waves keep coming and going. So in that sense, Ishvara, Brahman, Saguna Brahman with Maya, Brahman with Maya is called Ishvara, God. God is seen as the cause of this universe. So God with the power of Maya is always there, eternal. God is eternal. And in that eternal God, the universe arises, which is called creation, Srishti. It stays for some time, Sthiti, and it disappears back into God, into Saguna Brahman. Just as the wave arises and the wave subsides back into the water. So the universe is non-eternal in the sense of coming and going, and God is eternal in the sense of being the eternal cause. What Gaudapada is saying, this whole thing of God as the cause and universe as the product is an appearance. There is a reality which is beyond it, which is underlying it. It is because of Nirguna Brahman that, even because I cannot say, Nirguna Brahman is the only reality. And at the level of appearance, at the level of our samsara of appearance, there is cause and effect. Here there is an eternal cause called God and a non-eternal effect called this world, our body mind. But the whole thing is an appearance, a superimposition, in technical terms, adhyasa. The reality always is turiya. So in terms of Mandukya, there are three states: waking, dreaming, deep sleep. Waking and dreaming are called karya, effect. Deep sleep is called karana. Gross state, waking. Subtle state, dreaming. Causal state, look at the word causal. Karanavastha is deep sleep, sushupti. That causal state is the state of God. And the subtle state is the state of God. The causal state is the state of God. Causal is, in Sanskrit, the state of God is Ishvara. The subtle state is the mental state, it is called Hiranyagarbha. And the physical state, the gross, sthula state is called Virat or Vishwarupa. What Gaudapada is saying, none of them are real. Only Turiyam is real, the one which is appearing as cause and effect. Turiyam is appearing as Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha, Virat. But appearing as, which is real? Is Turiyam real plus Ishvara plus Gaudapada plus Hiranyagarbha plus Virat? No. It's like saying there is a bracelet, a necklace and a ring and gold, fourth. How many are there? If you count the ornaments, 3. But if you count gold, only 1. Gold alone exists, but it appears in these ways. Yeah. Yes.
Soma and Depanik.
Pranam Maharaj.
Namaskar.
I think I don't know if my question makes sense or not. I think I'm clouded a little bit by science, and I'll refer to the clay pot example. Today you said that time, space, and causality is not real. What do you think about energy? For example, with the clay pot example, how do we account for the energy or some thought that goes in the transformation of the clay to the pot or even something else?
Right. So, first of all, don't extend the clay pot example too much. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, upama agdeshi, that means an example is meant to prove a point. We are not actually concerned with clay or with pots. It's just meant to prove a point that the pot is nothing apart from the clay. That's all. Don't bring the potter into it, don't bring pottery barn into it, and things like that. So, that's one point. Second is, what about energy? Matter and energy, both are appearances. What is the reality? Brahman is the reality. That's what Gaudapada would say. How do you understand this? You have to go back to chapter 2 and chapter 3. For example, Gaudapada would immediately give the example of the dream example, for example. You see, in dreams, you see so many things made of matter, buildings and trees, and there's organic matter, inorganic matter, living beings, non-living beings. And there's so much energy being expended. People are moving around and talking and fighting, and lots of things are happening. But when you wake up, you realize that one mind alone appeared as all that matter and all that energy, and that matter and energy was not real. What was real was the mind. That is an example. What is being exemplified? What is Gaudapada's point? The point is, from the perspective of Turium, which is consciousness and existence, everything else, matter, energy, time, space, causality, is an appearance. So that's the answer. Let's go on.
Sorry, one last question.
Yes.
You had mentioned that Gaudapada says that karma and a body cannot just come together.
Yeah.
But we are seeing that at least I feel that in this Maya, it is coming together. Or
How? So you are born. You're born, there must be a cause behind it. So there was karma before your birth. That karma, part of your past karma, prarabdha karma, has produced this birth, this body, your parents, your particular circumstances. For this life, a part of your past karma is responsible. So karma was before birth. And now this birth, with this body, you are producing fresh karma. So clearly there is a sequence.
So, but isn't he saying that this is not possible?
Yeah, he's saying this is not possible. So one of the things which you said, simultaneous, so he's saying simultaneous it cannot be. So how can it be simultaneous? Because the karma which produced this body must have come before this body, so it cannot be simultaneous. You said can't they come together?
Yes, so it is, but we are going through past lives. There is this birth-life cycle, or is he refuting that also?
He's refuting that. Notice, this is a crucial point. This is the key to what's going on here. It might seem very mystifying otherwise. Gaudapada at no point denies that you are experiencing these things. He does not deny your experience. He denies the reality of your experience. He does not deny that you are seeing a pot, but he is saying that the pot is nothing apart from the clay. He does not deny that you see a necklace or a ring or a bracelet, but he is saying that necklace, ring and bracelet are nothing apart from the gold. There is no entity called a necklace apart from the gold. Similarly, when you say, aren't we going through past lives, present life, people, things are happening? Is he denying this? What is he saying? You have to be careful. He is saying what you are seeing now, none of it is apart from you, the consciousness. In fact, it's a nice segue into the next topic. If you are asking, Is there an external real world at all? Are we going through a real life with real people, real body? Are things there externally or not? If this is one form of the question you are asking, as we common sense we take it to be. Is there Zoom? Is there a Swami hundreds or thousands of miles away? Are there multiple time zones, people getting together? All these things, are they happening or not? What is his answer to that? So he is not denying that you are experiencing it, but he is denying that they are real. How unreal things, how can we experience? Of course we can experience unreal things. Don't we dream? Don't we make errors? Don't we watch movies? Don't we read fiction? Okay, but this is a question, and let's go on now. The next section comes along, precisely this question. Is there an external world? Many of the philosophers Gaudapada deals with, and many of the questions which we deal with how are you saying that there is not a world outside? So this is a standard question that Bill has been asking for 95 years. So how are you denying that there is a world outside my mind? So this is the question asked by the realist, by the materialist, who says a world exists, whether you know it or not, whether you imagine it or not. There is a world outside your own thoughts. Objects exist, and then you perceive them. So this kind of philosophy is now going to be examined and rejected by Gaudapada, again using his attack on causality. Who are these people? So specifically what's going on here is, earlier Gaudapada has rejected the Naiyayikas and Sankhyas. He has rejected all those philosophers who talk about law of karma. Now his target is actually the Buddhists. What he does here is, little background. The ancient Buddhists in India were divided into 4 philosophical schools. Sautrantika, Vaibhashika, Yogāchāra Vijñānavāda, that's one name, and Madhyamaka Shunyavāda, that's another name. So 4. Sautrantika school, Buddhists. Vaibhashika school, Buddhists. Yogāchāra Vijñānavāda school, Buddhists. And Madhyamaka Shunyavāda school, Buddhists. 4 schools of Buddhism. What are the differences between them? Many, many differences. But for what concerns us right now is this issue of whether there is a world, external world, apart from my mind or not. Question, is there a world apart from my mind? Who thinks that? Common sense, that's our common sense. The people I see, they exist apart from me. My body exists physically. The chair I sit on is existing physically, it's not in my mind. There is a world out there which exists. So I am living a life in this physical world. This is the common sense view. On this question, there can be 4 positions which the Buddhists have taken up. What are these 4 positions? One position is the Sautrantika view, which is called Bāhyārtha Pratyakshavādi. That means you directly perceive external objects. By external I mean apart from you, the knower. The teacup you perceive. There is a real teacup in the world, there is a real world and a real teacup, and you are touching it, seeing it, directly it is revealed to you by your perception, by seeing, touching the tea you taste. It is really out there, apart from your mind, it's not in your mind. And how do you know it's there? By pratyaksha, by seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. It's very close to our common sense way, the way we view the world. Are you with me? So the first alternative is, there is an external world. How do you know? We see it. We see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it. 1. Bāhyārtha Pratyakshavādi. Bāhya means external, Artha means object, Pratyaksha means direct perception. Vādi means the philosopher who says that external things exist and are directly perceived. Sautrantika, one Buddhist. Second, the Vaibhashika Buddhist is saying that no. There is an external world, but we do not directly perceive it. We infer it. What do you mean? Notice what happens when you perceive something. When you say that I am perceiving something, here is a book. I am looking at a book now. But really what is happening is, and this is common sense science today also, absolutely modern science will have no objections to this way of thinking. The light falls on the book and the light goes reflected from the book, goes into my eyes. By the time it reaches my eyes, the book is not there. The book does not enter my eyes, thank God. Only the light enters the eyes. So what my sense organs are receiving, O Sautrantika, you said directly you are perceiving. No. Directly only light goes into your eyes. And from there, your mind, it goes to the brain, and in the brain the neurons fire, and somehow an image of this book is created in your mind, and you say, I see a book. So by the activity of our sense organs and our optical nerves and our brain activity, we get a result from which we infer that there is really a book outside. Are you with me? Is this not how we understand perception in modern medicine and biology, physiology? Actually, nobody says that we are directly experiencing objects. Objects, sense data only comes to us. Objects don't come to us. Sense data are gathered by our sense organs. And then sense data is also transformed into little bursts of electricity. There is neither sight nor sound, light, no objects are there. Only little bursts of electricity racing along our nerves, optic nerve, auditory nerve, olfactory nerves. They are racing along our nerves to the brain centers, and from there somehow, nobody knows how, that is the crux of the hard problem of consciousness. Nobody knows how these sights, sounds, smells, tastes are presented to you, the consciousness. From there you infer such things exist in the world. You say, I don't think like that. We don't think like that, but that's what's going on basically. Would you agree? Yeah. So this is a more scientific way of looking at it. This is called bahyartha anumeyavadi. Bahya, external, artha, object, anumeya means inferable, vadi, philosopher. The philosopher who infers the existence of external objects. Both say there is a world and there are external things in the world, absolutely as you experience them, they are there. So they are called realists, Buddhist realists. These are attacked by the third school of Buddhism, the Vijnanavadi, Yogachara Vijnanavadi Buddhist, who says neither directly perceived nor experienced nor inferred, there are no external objects, they only appear to be external. Now, everything is internal, is in your mind. Just like a dream, where you perceive that there are things, people and teacup, everything external, but actually when you wake up, what do you realize? Everything was in my mind. Space, time, people, objects, activities, all was going on in my mind only in the dream. In the dream, there was nothing external. I was not experiencing an external world. Exactly like that, what you think your waking world is, all of that is in consciousness only. You say, just a minute, sounds like Advaita, very much like Advaita. So, the Vijnanavadi Buddhist denies any external objects. Whatever you experience in consciousness. It's like watching a movie. There is no external object at all. Now, this is very much like Advaita Vedanta. The last one we are not concerned with, the Shunyavadi, which Gaudapada does not talk about here. What Gaudapada now does is, remember Gaudapada's unique way of fighting against his opponents. Do you remember? What he does is, he uses the arguments of one against the other. So he has done this earlier also. Now he is going to do this. What he is saying, he wants to deny that there is an external world. And here are two philosophers, Sautrantika Vaibhashika Buddhists, who say there is an external world, directly perceived or inferred. And here is another Buddhist philosopher who is very much like Advaitins and who says that everything is in consciousness, there is no real external world at all. When this idealistic Buddhist, the Vijnanavadi, attacks the realist Buddhists, the arguments that the Vijnanavadi uses, Gaudapada takes those arguments and he uses it to attack people who say that there are external objects, there is an external world. What is he doing? Using the Vijnanavadi's arguments against the Sautrantika Vaibhashika in order to show that it's illogical to think that there are external objects. So, will he agree with the Vijnanavadi? No. He will ditch the Vijnanavadi. Once his purpose is fulfilled, he has defeated the realists. Now, the Vijnanavadi will say, so you are in our camp, why don't you become a Buddhist? He will say, no, you are the worst of the lot for these reasons. He will dismiss the Vijnanavadi also. But for the time being, the story is this. People say there are external objects. The Vijnanavadi opposes them. Just by the way, in modern philosophy, most fashionable current trend, what is the thinking? It's realism, that the world is real there because it matches science. And there are two schools of realism in modern philosophy, Western philosophy. One is called naive realism. Naive realism means as the world exists, so we perceive it. We are directly perceiving the world. You say, hey, that sounds a lot like the Sautrantika. Yes. And there is a second school of realists which are called the critical realism. Critical realism is that we don't directly perceive the external world, but we infer it. Data comes into our mind, and from that we make a picture of the external world, and from that we infer that there is an external world. You say, hey, doesn't that sound a lot like the Vaibhashika? Yes. So, we have new names for them. Naive realism today in 21st century. These are the prominent schools of philosophical, metaphysical thinking today. Naive realism, critical realism. They don't know 25 centuries ago in ancient India, these were prominent schools of Buddhism, Sautrantika and Vaibhashika. Okay. Now, I will just do one more verse, just start the debate off because we are running out of time. So far this is the background. Realism under attack by the idealistic Buddhists, and we, or Gaudapada, is going to use the idealistic Buddhists to refute the realists, and then later he will dismiss the idealistic Buddhist also. So, we are entering in the middle of the debate. We have lost the sound. Can you hear me? I think somebody is saying that we can't hear. You can hear? You can hear? Yeah, we can hear. So, we are joining the debate. The story has already started. We are joining it halfway. I gave you all the background for the understanding what's going on here. What's going on here is the story has started. The idealists are saying, oh realists, there are no external objects. Everything is in your mind like a dream. Everything is like watching a movie, actually not out there. Now, the realists are going to push back. So, this is the point where we are joining the story. When the idealist says there are no external objects, it's all in your mind. Remember who is here, the Vijnanavadi idealists, whom we are joining for the time being. And the opponent is the realists. Who are they? They are also Buddhists. They are Sautrantika and Vaibhashika. They are going to push back and say, how can you say there are no external objects? See, 20, verse number 25. Pragyapte sannimittattvam ishyate yukti darshana. Just a minute. No, 24, verse number 24. Somebody should have pointed this out. Pragyapte sannimittattvam anyatha dvayanashata sankleshasya upalabdhescha paratantrastita mata. This is an objection from, counterattack from the Sautrantika Vaibhashika. 24. Translation. We have to admit that knowledge has its objects, since a contrary supposition leads to an annihilation of duality, and the existence of objects as supported by the opposite systems of thought is also admitted from the fact of the experiences of pain. So, what is being said here? The realists are pushing back. And remember, these people, they may have existed 2000 years ago and may be existing in academic departments now, but their questions are our questions. This is a very common sense view. So, what's going on here? Just a minute. So, the realist pushes back, says there are external objects. External means external not to the body, external to your consciousness, external to consciousness, apart from consciousness. Why? Notice your experiences. Who is saying this? The realist to the idealist. To us. We are also hiding behind the idealist now with Gaudapada. The realist is saying, notice your experiences. You have so many experiences. If you think your consciousness is one and the same. And the same consciousness has so many experiences. Why should the same consciousness have many experiences unless there are many things outside consciousness? I'll repeat that. You have so many kinds of knowledge. You see so many things and people right now. When you look, you see so many people on your Zoom screen, and each of them has a different interesting background. And you hear sounds that I'm talking, and what I'm saying also has many words. I'm saying many different things. And the things you can touch, and if you are eating, you can taste something. So all those different kinds of knowledge are coming to you one after another, again and again. And if there is only consciousness, nothing outside consciousness, how will you account for this variety of knowledge? Because there are external objects, millions of external objects, people and food and smells and tastes and touch, all of these things are there. The items to be tasted, touched or smelt, they are there. Because of that, you are getting variety of experiences. If that was not so, if consciousness alone was existing, then he says, dvayanāshaha, duality would be lost. Without duality, no experience. You need subject and object for experience. And for multiplicity of experiences, because you are the same subject having multiple experiences, that means there must be multiple objects. And if you say there is only the subject consciousness, as you, the idealist Vijnanavadi, says, then how will you account for experience? You are also having multiple experiences, series of experiences throughout the day. So, dvayanāsha, duality will go away if only subject is admitted. And so what if duality goes away? We want non-duality. No. If duality goes away, then there will be no subject-object. There will be no experience, no way of accounting for your experiences. You can't dismiss your experiences. Gaudapada, remember what I said earlier, Gaudapada is trying to show, is not denying your experience, but questioning the reality of your experience. Here, the realist is pushing back. You can't question the reality of the objects. Without those objects, you will not have these experiences. How will you explain the experiences? Variety of experiences. By only consciousness. Also, he gives a special case. Sam kleshasya upalabdhe. Because of pain. And remember, this is Buddhists, so they are big on pain. The whole thing starts with everything is sorrow. So, because of the existence of pain, you must admit that there is a cause of pain and there is a body which feels pain. He is giving a prominent problem for us. A prominent problem is suffering, pain, physical and mental. Take very simple example of physical pain. A burn or a prick where it hurts. Now, just consider that example. You can't say it's all in the mind. Clearly there is something that caused the pain, so there must be something outside your mind, and there is something that felt the pain, which is very physical. It is the body which feels the pain. So the existence of pain proves a body which experiences pain and something outside which causes pain. Maybe outside means outside the mind. It could be internal to the body or outside the body, but it causes pain to the body, and clearly you feel it. So, existence of external objects must be admitted because of multiplicity of experiences, and also because of the very important experience of pain. What will you say to that? We are hiding. Vijnanavadi is in front. So, Vijnanavadi has got answers for that. We will see. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, because I have to join the San Diego meeting also. So, and you also have to get ready. Many of you are joining that meeting. Prabir Babu had raised the hand. Let's see. Yeah, it's a cliffhanger. We seem to have proved external objects. Bill often asks this question from Samuel Johnson. Remember, the same debate happened 300 or 400 years ago. Berkeley, Bishop Berkeley, the philosopher, Irish priest and philosopher, subjective idealist, just like the Vijnanavadi. He said it's all in the mind. There is nothing external. And Samuel Johnson, when he was told this philosophy that everything is subjective in the mind, no objective experience, no objective entities. Samuel Johnson, it seems, he kicked a rock and he said, I refute it thus. I refute it thus. What does he mean by that? Here is a solid thing, I'm kicking and it's hurting my toes. Almost the same argument which 2000 years ago the Sautrantika and Vaibhashika are pushing back against the idealist. What does the idealist say? You have to wait for a week. I will not take time. Let me give you the answer in essence, otherwise you will be in tension. To spare you this metaphysical tension for 1 week, does the external world exist or not? So the Vijnanavadi answers that no, there is no external object. An example could be the dream. In a dream, you see your own body, you see other people, maybe rain is falling and it feels wet. All of that, the rain and the clouds and the body and the feeling wet, the whole thing is in the mind, and you yourself admit it once you wake up. So, in the same way, this whole thing can be in consciousness. Entire diversity, there is a way of explaining the diversity because of Maya. So, just like in the same mind can imagine and create subject, object and all sorts of diversity. Similarly, in consciousness, in the waking state also, the whole thing can be and in fact is experienced. So, that will be the answer. From the, he will say, from the perspective of Advaitic reality, that means consciousness reality, Turiya, you will see the whole thing is an appearance in consciousness. There is no need to accept things existing externally. Not only there is no need, it is illogical, external things apart from consciousness. That will be the answer. And that will not be the end of it. The realist will push back again. Very subtle questions will be there. And those will all be dealt with, not by us, not by Gaudapada, by the Vijnanavadi. It will do all the hard work for us. And when the realists are defeated, Gaudapada will mercilessly get rid of the Vijnanavadi also. So, that is going to be the program for next time. Prabir Babu, let us quickly hear your question.
Yeah, Maharaj, Pranam, you don't have to answer today, but my question is the difference between the Abrahamic religions do not have the law of karma, and we do, and some people actually say that is because of our tamasic nature, we believe in fate too much. So I want to know the difference between the two and what the pros and cons of the law.
Yeah, that's a big question. But remember, here we are even dismissing the law of karma. The law of karma is a much more sophisticated answer to the whole problem of life, and beyond that lies Advaita and Gaudapada, who dismisses even the law of karma. So it's not that. See, there is this alternative. The alternative is God is in charge. So ultimately, everything that happens to us is because of God. But even in the Abrahamic religions, in Judaism, Christianity, Islam, remember, a very important fact is God is just. So what God does to us, there is a standard of justice. So we get what we deserve. And in the Bible, we sow what we reap. So whatever we have sown, that we reap. That's more or less the law of karma in its, dare I say, seed form. So when you say just, there is some link between what we are getting and what God is giving. So it's not random, not arbitrary. It's almost exactly like the law of karma, without spelling out the details. But the whole thing Gaudapada is rejecting. He says it's illogical. All right, we'll leave it at that. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Rama Krishna Arpanamastu.